Hello, this is Crystal with Girl Meets Kingdom, and I have a special guest.
Krista.
Today, we're going to speak on a topic that it should be important to everyone because as we're closing the 2022 year and we're moving into 2023, we want to make sure that we are prepared for 2003 and we're not, bringing in any unresolved business. And that business is unforgiveness. So today's title is going to be Forgiveness Leads to Closure. All right, so I'm going to start with a scripture and then we're going to open up in prayer and then we will get started. And so the scripture I will reference comes from Matthew chapter 12. I don't know why I said 12. Matthew chapter 6, verses 14 and 15. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, then your Father will not forgive your trespasses. And so that right there shows us if our Father forgives us, we have to forgive others. If we don't forgive others, how is our Father going to forgive us? So that's something I want you all to just think about as we talk about forgiveness. So, Crystal, you want to lead us in prayer?
Okay. Heavenly Father, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to be able to have this day, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to be able to have the different platforms that we are using today, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to be here and to be able to hear a word from you, Lord. Thank you for using us to be able to speak to your people, Lord. I pray that our hearts be softened and our minds be renewed and our spirits be made within you, Lord, so we could be able to step into the things that is holding us back because we have not forgiven ourselves or forgiven each other's, Lord. So I pray that you guide us and you protect us and you allow us to be able to be spoke through towards your people so they could be able to hear you, Lord. May you decrease us and increase yourself, Lord. May your spirit be known, Lord. May you give us revelation, confirmations, and just the renewing and deliverance from whatever it is that this viewer is listening to, Lord. May you guide us and protect us, Lord. May you remove anything that is not of you, Lord. Anything that is of the enemy, may it be removed, and we walk into a season and we walk into the new year with a fresh and developed heart that loves you, and to help us be able to forgive others that have hurt us or have been placed in situations that we don't know if we will be able to forgive, but we know that we could do all things through you that has strengthened us, Lord. And good things come to those who love you, Lord. So I pray that our mind be renewed and our hearts be softened, and you use us as your vessels to be able to get your people closer to you and to get the word across that you have intended for us to share with your people that you love and that you intend on continuing to grow, Lord. We thank you and we love you, and may your presence be known in this podcast and in this video and in this live, Lord. So I thank you and I love you. Amen.
Amen. All right. So forgiveness. What does forgiveness mean to you?
I think forgiveness to me just mean being able to just be set free from a situation or from a person that has done you wrong, or forgiveness to yourself, because as humans we expect everything to go as we planned or expect things to go perfect, or that relationship to work out, or whatever the case is. I just feel like just being able to understand that even though you do get hurt in those situations in that relationship, and even though it didn't work out the way that you intended on to work out, just being able to look back at the situation and say, you know what, I didn't like the way that I was feeling, I didn't like the way that it ended, but I understand that it developed me to be where I am now today, and just be able to look at others the way that God looks at you. So that is what forgiveness looks like to me, and just being able to talk about a situation that may have hurt you, or that may have not been feeling good towards you, but being able to talk about it and to see that you are okay. You are okay and you've lived through it, and that's just by the grace and merciful goodness of God. So
that's good. For me, forgiveness, I mean, honestly, I used to think forgiveness was kind of unnecessary. And I say that because I thought, okay, what is it really doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it erasing the situation? You know what I'm saying? Is it making me feel better by saying, oh, I forgive so-and-so when I know I really don't forgive them? And then if I forgive the person, then how is that holding them accountable?
Mm-hmm.
So I really thought forgiveness, I thought it was something that you hear on television, how people talk about forgiveness set me free. And it seems like, no, it didn't,
Right.
But now, from God having to teach me about forgiveness and me actually experiencing what forgiving someone else, how it releases me and set me free. To me, forgiveness is closure.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to always be able to have that conversation with that person.
Mm-hmm.
That person is not going to always accept what they did, accept accountability. And you have to be okay, because if you're constantly trying to wait for, well, I need them to tell me what they did wrong, I need them to, you're going to always live in a situation where you're just not going to see the end. You're not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to grow bitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's people that hold on to things for years over something that happened 1, 2, 10, 15 years ago, and something as small as forgiveness, you think, what can that do?
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to actually talk about forgiveness, because it's more than just saying, okay, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And you really don't forgive the person. It's a heart thing.
Mm-hmm.
God sees our heart. He knows our heart. So if I say I forgive you, and then in my heart I'm like, she got me messed up,
She could just get
I
on my
really
face.
don't fool with her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's not forgiveness, and you're not going to experience the closure. So when we talk about, the title is forgiveness is your closure, what does closure mean for you?
I think closure for me is regardless if you've got that conversation or that apology from somebody that has hurt you or somebody that has not met your expectations. I think closure for me is really as being able to feel that peace. You know what I'm saying? Being able to feel that peace that only really God can feel, but to be able to understand, like, even though I might not have that apology, because let's be real, sometimes you probably won't even get that apology. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to get it because that person hasn't fully grown within themselves, or just they don't see that they feel like they have to take accountability for their actions. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody is going to be like you. Not everybody grew up in a family that was like, whenever you do wrong, you accept it and you take accountability for it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Not every parent made you apologize for something that you did, or whatever the case is. But being able to understand, like, oh wow, you know what I'm saying? Even if I don't talk to you again, I know how I know how I can get through this, and it's really just leaning on God and being able to have that relationship with God. That's like, you don't need that person to give you closure. God will give you closure, but you just have to open up to Him and be able to allow Him to give you that closure that you need within y'all's relationship with with yourself and God, and making that into a relationship. So that's what closure is for me. Just being able to feel the peace that even though something is not going to turn out the way that you intended with that apology, it's still okay, because you know God has you. You know what I'm saying? That's closure.
Yeah. I'm with you. I agree. Like, for me, closure is just like you said, it's the peace. It's being able to literally, like, close the book, close the chapter and move forward. It's okay. You're okay. You have accepted the fact that, I'm not going to get an answer. I'm not going to get, an apology. Mm-hmm. I'm not. But that's not going to hold me back.
Yeah.
I'm going to still, press on. And so closure, I feel like the only way to really, experience closure, if you're in a situation where you can't have, because even if you're in a situation where you had a conversation with the person, you're probably not going to hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So then let's say you had a conversation with the person, okay, and you're not satisfied with the conversation. Then what? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to always hold on to that person and, well, no, he needs to say this, or no, she needs to do this? Well, what if they don't do it?
Yeah.
Then how are you going to move forward? You're not. You're going to keep harboring that in your heart, and you're going to grow bitter. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be able to forgive. And that forgiveness is really not for them. It's really for you.
Yeah.
It's really for you. And so, okay, so let's just really talk about experiences that we have gone through, because we can talk about this, and that. It's easier said than done. Mm-hmm. And I think we both have experiences. So take me to a time or a situation or a person that you have had to forgive or you're in the process of forgiving?
Okay. That in our friendship, there's a lot that we discuss and talk about, and this is something that I feel like we always talk about because rather it's like a day or a year or something like that, there's always something that somebody needs to forgive or take forgiveness in or whatever. But and I've had a few encounters, but I feel like the biggest one that I've had to forgive was my former boyfriend and my ex-boyfriend, whatever. And I say I had to forgive him because, that was my first boyfriend ever. You know what I'm saying? He met my family. That's the first person that has actually that I had so close to me. You know what I'm saying? And so whenever that relationship ended, I felt abandoned. You know what I'm saying? I felt abandoned, like he left me. And then the way that like it all ended, it was like I had to let go because he wasn't, I guess he wasn't strengthened enough or strong enough to let go. So I had to be the one to let go, even when I felt like I didn't want to. But I felt abandoned. I felt like I had to be the one to care for myself in that situation. And I also just felt like it was like, how can we be together for so long and like, you know what I'm saying? And, we just end like that or whatever. So it's like there was no fighting or anything or whatever. And so I really, at first, I was like so upset. I was so hurt and so upset about the whole situation because I'm like all those feelings and emotions. And this is my first breakup. So it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do I do? I don't have,
to navigate it.
I didn't know. And then like I was just, that's really what led me into my Christ journey now, is because that breakup or whatever. And I'm so very thankful. But before, I'm like, I honestly don't even know what to really do, because I was putting I was putting idolatry on the fact that I was in a relationship. And so whenever it ended, it was like, okay, now that thing is taken away from me. So what do I do? It's like, and so that is something that I really had to continue to talk to God through, and just allow him to like get me in a situation to be pruned and to develop, because that part of my journey was something that really was like, how can I even live if I won't be able to forgive him? And so I had to get to where it's like I was submissive within the Holy Spirit. I had to continuously, even if it was like crying every single day or, something, a memory that will pop up or whatever, I just had to continue to say, it took me a minute, but I actually got it. It's like, even though I went through this hard situation especially at an age that I was at or whatever, it's like I had to understand that, look, this is how I got through it and this is how I forgave him, because I looked at the situation. I just got out of high school, so I really didn't know too much about anything, rather than I just loved this guy, right? And so it was like, whenever he was gone, it was like, I have to understand that we were not saved. You know what I'm saying? I knew God, but I didn't actually have that relationship with him. So it was like I knew God, and I knew that, God had a purpose or whatever, had a reason, but I'm like, I still don't understand because I didn't have that real solid foundation or whatever. So it was like when that happened, it was like God really gave me the confirmation and the revelation, like, look, even though that you're hurt and I'm going to use this to help you and develop you have to understand that y'all were not saved. So how can you be able to do something like this if y'all weren't even in a place to know me? You know what I'm saying? So being able to see, like, yes, he hurt me. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And not just him, but it was me, because I knew that there was red flags going on in a relationship. There was red flags going on in a relationship. And there was also things that I knew that wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I had to understand that even though we weren't saved, we were also young. You know what I'm saying? We didn't really know no better, because although we were brought up in two different households, he was brought up totally different the way I was brought up. And it was like, how can that even align? So it's like just understanding the background of how it developed into this situation right here. And that was a lot of forgiveness on my end as well, because I had to forgive myself that I didn't know Christ. I didn't know Christ at the time that I needed to know him. You know what I'm saying? It took me so long to say, I need God. It took me so long to understand that I need God, but it also made me realize y'all weren't saved. You were young, Christelle, and if you didn't go through this situation, how would you be able to know me as a father that loves you, that is there with you? So that is an experience to get me to where it's like forgiveness is such a big pack or such a big part of life, because it's like, if I don't forgive this person that hurt me, how am I going to be able to forgive myself and put myself in those situations? And how am I going to be able to see that the Lord has forgiven me for all the things that I've done? How will I be able to see that the Lord forgave me whenever I was saying forget him? You know what I'm saying? I was really leaving the faith whenever I was, you know what I'm saying? I remember a time in the relationship, like my mom kept asking me to go to church, and I'm like, no, like, I don't even think that God is real or whatever. And that was, obviously because I was around, something or somebody that really didn't align with the things that I believed in. And so that eventually led me off track and to think those things. But it's like, if I didn't forgive him, I probably wouldn't have been the woman or the lady that I'm developed to be within Christ. So that is a long experience, but that is an experience.
So when did you come to the realization that forgiveness was what was missing for you to be able to move forward? When did you come to that realization, and how did you come to it? So if you think about, like, how long from when it ended did you come to that realization that, dang, I need to forgive him to be able to move on? And what was that? How did you come to that understanding? How did you come to that realization?
Well, I felt like I understood I needed to forgive whenever I was still feeling that hurt. You know what I'm saying? Because you could feel hurt and then, some people just go numb. But I felt like it was so much hurt for me that it's like I was putting myself in the box where it was just like, well, I got hurt, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna throw all my hurt on everybody. So it's like it really was in the situation to where I didn't have anybody in my face or in my circle, and I just really had to sit out and just be like, and actually take accountability. Like, I'm hurt because I felt like this shouldn't have happened to me. You know what I'm saying? The expectation that I had for the relationship did not go as I intended it to be. So that's how I felt like I needed to forgive, because it was like, if I didn't forgive him, he still had a hold on me. Even if we weren't in the same place, he still just had a hold on me.
Hold on you. Not even with the person, they have a hold on you. Yep.
And it's like, and even though I wasn't seeing him, and even though we weren't in the same area, or even if I wasn't hanging around him or his family, it was still like I was just missing something when I would just go out into the world. It was like I had the shield on, like I had a wall up 24/7. Now, boundaries are definitely, yes, you should definitely have boundaries no matter what. Yes. But I felt like every aspect of my life, it was reverting back to the hurt that I had. So in order for me to actually surrender and to actually indulge in the person that I am now, I just really had to think like, I'm so hurt that I'm letting this person or this situation take hold of me to where it's like I don't even want to go out and talk to, women of God or be able to go into church because I'm scared that I'm going to get hurt again. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not relational, but it's still like,
it affects other areas of your life, and you don't realize that until, like you said, you have to sit back and take accountability and self-reflect and wonder, like, why don't I feel safe? Why don't I? And you're trying to protect yourself from that situation happening, even if it's not just in a romantic relationship sense. That can be with friends, that can be with family, that can be with coworkers. And so that one area of your life can affect other areas of your life. Because it's like
you have this wall. You know what I'm saying? You're so hurt so bad to where it's like, bye.
Yeah.
You know
like, I ain't got time for it. I'm not about to risk it. It is. And so okay, so you came to the realization. And as far as the forgiveness, was it just saying I forgive them, or what has been the process? Is it ongoing? What does that look like for you?
I feel like at first it's going to continuously to be ongoing, but I feel like you get to a point to where it's like the more that you say and speak out loud to the Lord, and even through community, the more that you talk about the situation, and the more that you like indulge in the Lord and allow him to be able to speak into you and to, shift your heart and to posture your heart to be able to understand what's going on within you,
Yeah.
that's when I feel like it's actually going to hit you that you forgive. For me, I had eras that I would definitely like always I will always write in my journal. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I
that's
will
good.
always
That's
write in
good.
my journal, and it's like, Lord, I'm feeling like this today. I thought I was over it. And
Yeah.
honestly, you're never going to get over it unless you identify the exact feelings that you had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my feelings that I was feeling in those, I just can't believe that somebody that I let so close in my life, somebody that I let meet my family, somebody that was close to my brother, somebody, whatever the case is, it was like I let him in, and it's like you just walk away you just walk away so
You're so
quickly.
yeah.
And so it's just like being able to acknowledge those feelings and understand that your feelings are valid.
Yeah.
Because that goes back to childhood as well. Because it's like, if I don't understand the way that I'm feeling, then how I'm going to be able to get to the root of what's really happening within my heart, and to be able to allow God to see God's hand in it.
Yes.
So for me, it was like really expressing to the Lord, and even with you or whatever, because I know there were seasons and like, Crystal, I just feel like I just miss him or something like that. I don't know what's going on,
Those times will come.
And so I was just like, I just really just indulge in the Lord, and just express to the Lord like how I'm feeling, but just asking for help. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember I was driving, and there was a song or something, and it was just like I guess the thought of him or something, and it just really hit me that I guess we were done for real. And it was like, Lord, like I remember just crying and just knowing that I was going to be okay, and knowing that the Lord was on my side. And I don't understand why I'm going through this. I don't know why I'm going through this. And it's okay to question, like, Lord, I don't know why I'm going through this.
Right.
But I know that you know what I'm saying? But I know that I have you on my side. So I just remember crying and bawling. And it's just like, even though I was going through those emotions, and even though it's really got to a better place to where it's like, I forgive him, even though he hurt me, even though I hurt myself, I forgive him. And just understanding that you're going to have to say those words, I forgive, and to actually mean it. And you might not mean it, but to be able to say, I forgive him for the things. And Lord, because the Lord knows you more than you know yourself. So it's like, Lord, I feel like I forgive him, but if I don't forgive him, please help me to understand and to see him the way that you see him. You know what I'm saying? And also praying for him.
Also, you know you are on the process of forgiveness, because if you praying for someone, then
that has hurt you like that, and just being able to pray for them. And it took me a long time to actually mean my prayers that I was praying for him. Because I was like, when I first started doing it, it was like, Lord, like, I really don't want to pray for him, because like I feel like he's hurt me. But it's like, now it's like, if he crosses my mind or whatever, I pray for him, because it's like I actually forgive him. You know what I'm saying? I actually forgive him. So what about you? Is there anything that you have learned, or are you still going through this process of forgiving?
I feel like I've already gone through it, and that's why I know that on the other side of forgiveness, it feels great. It's freedom on the other side of forgiveness. And I say that because I had a situation. I had a person that I used to talk to, and I was so. And it just depends on, like, forgiveness can be hard if it's somebody that you just expect better from. You expect more from. Because if it's someone that you know what I'm saying, like,
it's like you don't see it coming when it's
something
that you have to forgive.
It's like if it's somebody that, like, you don't know that well, or somebody you just met, or like someone stood you up on a date. It's kind of like, okay, whatever, keep it moving. But if it's someone that you were vulnerable with, somebody that you were talking to, dating to, and you just expect more from the person. And so with the situation, it was a person that we were dating, talking, whatever word you want to use. And, it was a long process to get over this person. And with prayer and just, leaning on God and constantly going to God and asking, is this who you have for me? If it's not, I'm okay with that. But I need you to take away this desire. And so over time, that happened. And I got to the point to where I did not even, desire this person anymore. But when you close the chapter, it's important to keep it closed, because when you open it back up, you're opening up the pages to what happened. So those are the feelings and emotions and everything. And so a few months ago, I opened the book back up. I opened the chapter back up. And I started back talking to this person. I started back seeing this person. And then just in a matter of weeks, it went from, okay, maybe this time around it's going to be good or this is fun to, how can you do me like that? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I let you back in my life. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even checking for you. And so for this person to do me how they did, I was very, very upset. And I wanted to have a conversation with him so that he knew how I felt.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it's unfair that I have to deal with my feelings, but he doesn't get to.
It's like he over there chilling.
He chilling.
Yeah.
That's how you feel. It's like sometimes with us women, like it seems like we're the ones that's going through it, while the man is just living his best life, like nothing happened. I'm like, no, he needs to know that he's the reason I'm upset. He needs to take accountability. And so I was reaching out, and then he just stopped responding. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm trying not to turn into a crazy person and constantly message him. But I just remember talking to you during that time. I was just so frustrated.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with my emotions other than just to pour them out on him, but I could not, because I could not talk to him. And so I don't know what happened, but he was not responding. And I went from blocking him, but then I unblocked him because I'm like, well, maybe he responds and, he's going to tell me he's sorry or something. I felt like I needed that.
Right.
And it was hard for me to move on with life, anything, until I got that apology from him. And it started taking a toll on me. And so I started, that constantly was on my mind. I started having anger. Certain things that I was doing in other areas of my life, I didn't want to do it because I was so tied and wrapped in my emotions and feelings. Yeah. And so I got to the point to where I'm just like, God, I need you. And I don't know why we don't call on God sooner. Yeah. We sometimes call on him once we're at the end, at the breaking point, when it's like we should have called on him at the beginning, you know what I'm saying, instead of waiting. And so it was when I called on him, and I'm like, Lord, I need to know what to do. I need you to help me through this, because that feeling when you feel like a need, like an emotional need is not met, man, that can be painful. Yeah. And it seems like sometimes men don't understand how painful it is when we just want to talk, but you don't give us that opportunity to talk. Or we just want you to give us some type of emotion and we don't get it. Yeah. And it builds up. And so it took God leading me to a blog. It was titled God is Enough. And in the description, she put, what if you don't get that closure? What if you're unable to have that conversation with him? What if you're unable to tell him how you feel? What if you're unable to get that apology? It was like, will God be enough? And I'm like, of course God is enough. But if God is enough, why do you so deeply need it? Yeah. Why do you so deeply need that conversation with that person? Why do you so deeply need an apology from that person if God is enough? And I'm like, well, of course God is enough. I'm like, well, let me see what that means. And so I continued reading the blog. I wish I had the title to it. And I was just weeping because I was so like, oh my gosh, like basically I'm saying God is not enough because I'm like, I can't move on with my life because I'm just so emotionally like, devastated that I can't talk to him about it. And I'm like, that's not what it's supposed to be like. And I'm like, well, God, how do I move on? Because I want to, but I'm like, what? And I felt like God told me, you need to forgive him. And I'm like, forgive him?
Right.
I'm talking about
into depth, God. Like,
I'm like, what I'm forgiving him for? What? Like,
I need a little bit more information on
forgive him. He hasn't done anything worthy of forgiveness. Yeah. I'm like, don't you forgive somebody once they apologize or something? Talk to me or something. I'm like, why would I give him? And I'm like, God, I'm like, okay, well, I forgive him. Right. But God, like, no. And he had to show me what that looked like. And so for me, my forgiveness was after I was in deep prayer with God, the forgiveness was me actually sending him a text explaining how I felt
Yeah.
and voicing it, but then saying, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking I wasn't going to mean it, but I legit meant it. Once I put out everything and once I felt the peace and comfort knowing, even though I don't have this conversation with him, I got God. Can nobody take that away?
Yeah.
God will never leave me
Yeah.
like other people will. God will never leave me hanging. God will never do the things that we expect other people not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, God is enough because that's the only one that's truly there that, you know what I'm saying? And so when I realized that and I sent that message and I put, I forgive you. And God was telling me I have to be okay and not expect a response.
Yeah.
So I sent it and I deleted the thread and I did not expect a response or anything. I was like, I'm done. I closed the chapter. And as soon as I sent that message, I promise you, all of a sudden I felt this supernatural feeling of freedom and peace. And I'm like, what is this? And I was able to carry on with my life. Mm-hmm. And I look back, and even though I was not needing the closure anymore of the response from him, he did respond. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, look at our God. Yeah. Even though we didn't need it, God just wanted us to show him we don't need it. Yeah. But he still gave it to me. He still allowed for us to have that conversation. And so I end up getting that apology from him. Mm-hmm. And him taking ownership and accountability. But if he did not give that to me, I was still okay because my closure was me forgiving him. Yeah. And I experienced the peace and the freedom from just releasing him, mm-hmm. you know, and I didn't harbor up no bitterness because it turns into bitterness. Yeah. It turns into hate. And you're like, I hope the next girl you get with do you wrong.
Especially if you're not, I'll just speak from like females, especially if you're not like a mean girl. Because, you know, you do have girls out there that like to be mean to guys and stuff like that. But I can say from, hey, Calandra, but I can say
she
from
here, us talking, probably because I have it.
I can say from me and Crystal or whatever, we like to be nice. We're very kind hearted and nice or whatever. So just being able to understand that even though we don't get that closure from the people that has hurt us or people that has done us wrong or whatever the case is, but being able to understand that we are not perfect and nor are they. So being able to understand that it is okay and we're all still human. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, it is a supernatural peace that comes when you forgive, like actually forgive.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And so that's where it just proves that forgiveness, that's your closure.
Yeah.
And so what is another situation that's not, because sometimes we just think about forgiveness and we think it's our ex we have to forgive. But what if it's a friend you have to forgive? Does it look different for you? Walk me through how is that or an experience?
I think from definitely a friend is different. I definitely think it's from a friend is different because it's like, I feel like a friendship and a relationship is so different, but they hold different heartstrings. And so a friendship is like being able to say, and I could say this from me and Crystal's friendship. I know we had some, it's not really downs, but we've had some ups that that God had to help us get through or whatever. Because it's like me, I'm kind of the opposite of Crystal. So we're like definitely opposite from each other. But it's like whenever we express something that we feel is not the way that somebody should, how they should react or to respond, but to understand that this is my friend that God has placed in my life that loves me and that wants me to succeed in a way that I can't really see for myself. Whatever, it's okay for her to criticize something or to give me that feedback that I feel like I need, but I just don't want it. And so it's like being able to understand that, being able to, like, if she comes off in a hard way or in a way that I feel like it shouldn't have come off, but to understand not to just leave. Because I'm the friend that just, you talk to me some type of way, baby, I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying? I'm leaving and blocking. But God really had to sit down and just be like, she didn't mean it like this. She meant it like this. But being able to forgive her from the way that, maybe it's like the way that she was saying it, or the way that she, the way that she put up, whatever the case is, but being able to understand that she, as well as I am human, she's human, and forgiving the tone that she had. Not saying that it's right. I feel like forgiveness is understanding that even though the situation may not be right, you're still okay with saying it's okay, just letting it go. It's okay. Because sometimes it's not right. Most of the time, whenever you have to forgive, it's not right. Rather, that's a friendship or relationship. If you're in a situation that is not right, you're probably going to have to forgive. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the power of the Lord, because we do stuff that is not right, but He still forgives us. You know what I'm saying? So being able to just understand and to know that if there's going to be people and things in our life that we expect good from, or being able to expect a different outcome from, and just being able to forgive them and to know that the enemy uses to hurt you, but if you're a daughter or son of the Most High, He's going to use it to prepare you and get you developed in a sense to where it's like, oh, you actually can get through this situation without that apology, or to understand, why this friend did this or did that for you, because she loves you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what about you? Is there any other experiences? Let's say with a coworker or something. Is there an experience with a coworker that?
I mean, as far as with coworkers, like I think it's with coworkers, you have like a certain relationship. So sometimes it doesn't cross to where you're that close with your coworkers. So I don't have necessarily really experiences in that situation. I mean, I actually with some of my coworkers, they are some of my closest friends, but it has not been a situation really where it was something built up that I felt like I need to, what I'm saying? Because sometimes like stuff will happen, somebody will do something and you forgive them, it's no problem. But then in other situations, I feel like when you feel like you expect more from somebody and they do something, you don't realize how hard it is to forgive because somebody else did something you didn't like and you forgave them without an issue. Like you're not holding on to it. You're fine. But then you might have somebody like, what I'm saying, us, and it's like, I would expect more from her, or I wouldn't. So that hurt me in a different way. I think it's the level of hurt, because if somebody's just, they did something that, a coworker or something, like they sent the email, and you're like, I don't like how they sent the email. And they're like, all right, it's not really a big deal. Or they're like, oh, well, I didn't mean it like that. Oh, okay, cool. But when it's somebody that you're close with and you feel like they have wronged you in some way, you kind of hold on to that, and just kind of like you were saying, like even with us, I think we think when it comes to friendships where the foundation is built on Christ and stuff, at least I did, I'm thinking, oh, we ain't gonna have no issues. You know what I'm saying? You're not thinking that there will be any disagreements, but we're not the same person. We're different people and we're different ages. We have different backgrounds. And so and we just met, you know what I'm saying? Like you didn't know me from just growing up or prior to life group, just like I didn't know you. And so I feel like with friends, just like in your relationship, you're kind of in that honeymoon stage where everything is just so great. Yeah. And then you get past to a point to where you start more of the personality of who the person is starts coming out. And then you realize how that's different from how you are. Yeah. And so when, like with us, I feel like we were starting to let down our walls and our guards and just not really be conscious of like things we would say or things we would do, even though we wasn't doing it, maliciously, or we weren't trying to be mean or anything. We just got really comfortable, I feel like. And in being comfortable, that's going to not just come with good. That's going to come with some stuff that when you're comfortable, I don't know if I like this.
Yes, and especially in the friendship, that's where your real self is.
It's your real
know what I'm saying?
Self.
And I mean, this is going to be off topic a little bit, but that's how you identify who your real friends are. Because if you say something, you know what I'm saying? If you say something that's really your authentic self, they're not going to sit there and judge you you know what I'm saying? They're not going to judge you, or they're not going to leave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just an indicator. Watch who your real friends are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because and that's what I feel like we had to eventually get to the point of is knowing that being friends, I should be able to tell you if it's something that
Yeah. Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know about this, and you should be able to tell me.
Mhm.
If we can't be open and talk to each other about something, like, you have to question, are we really friends?
Right.
Are we as close as we really think we are if we feel like we can't really, address certain things? So I feel like when we started kind of not addressing things because we're not knowing what's that going to look like if I tell you, hey, you said this, I didn't like it, or girl, when you said this, it came across a certain way. We're not knowing how that's. I'm gonna stop this one because it's not going right. We're not knowing how that's going to come across.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, I'm just going to keep it in. Mm-hmm. But when you keep it in, it's building up. It's building up. And then one day you're going to snap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's going to come out not in the best way, or it's going to be something bigger than it could have been if you would have just addressed it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's just learning. And so all of that to go, how does the science of forgiveness is when we kind of bump heads, it seemed like it was one thing after another. Mm-hmm. It's like we addressed something, and then it seemed like it was something else. Yeah. And it's like we addressed something, and then it's like you feel like, ooh, I addressed it, but you like, I still don't know how I feel. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And then
because around that time there was a lot of conversations.
It was so many conversations, and just when you have one conversation, it's another, and you think, okay, we good, we done made it, but then you're like, some still don't seem right, and so then it's like, okay, well, let me talk about this, or you're like, okay, we talking about this too much, let me not say something. So now you holding back how you really feel, and so if you don't, so now you're just building up stuff, and then when we were able to address it and try to move forward. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not thinking anything about forgiveness. Yeah. But when it was time to move forward and try to get back to how we were, like talking and doing stuff together, because like we're life group leaders and stuff, it's not like we could just say, all right, I ain't gotta talk to you, I'm never gonna see you again. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, we're life group leaders, that means we have to talk, not just that life group. Yeah. Say, okay, we go to the same church. It was more than just like a co-worker or something like that. And so for me, I'll speak from my experience, it was hard for me to and I didn't know that it was the forgiveness that I didn't know that's what was like blocking me from being able to move on. But I had to realize I had to forgive you. And it's not even necessarily if that person did something right or wrong. It's just you have to forgive them regardless. Yeah. If you think it was wrong, if you think it was right, if you're saying, okay, this is how I feel, you say this is how you feel, and then we're like, okay, thank you. And then you're like, well, I still feel some type of way. You can't do that. You can't do that. So me having to understand, dang, why do I feel like I can't feel like the closeness, or why I feel like I'm it's a wall or something like that, or why do I feel like I don't really want to be vulnerable like I once was? And God took me to the book of Philemon, and that's about forgiveness and reconciliation. And I'm like, dang, is it I need to forgive? I need to forgive her for not necessarily she did me wrong, but for me thinking that she did me wrong, or for her doing something that I took a certain way. Because a lot of times we be in our feelings. A lot of times, you know what I'm saying? It's just personality differences. And so I had to really pray about it, because like I said, you can say, oh, I forgive her, I'm good. But God, like, no, you don't. Right. No, you don't. And so it took me really I know this gotta be the devil trying to come up in here and break up this friendship, break up this as soon as we started life group, I think. And it's like, why is all of this happening now? And we could have easily been like, we ain't got time for this. Bye. We just ain't gonna even do the, you know what I'm saying? We could have easily did that. But that's the difference in being, women of God and trying to pursue Christ versus not. Yeah. Because if this was a year and a half, 2 years prior, I don't know if we would have continued. Right. But, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But being able to continue, even when you uncomfortable initially and press through, now it's like we can freely talk about it. Right. And it not make us, oh, she did do that. Because that's where forgiveness. That's how I know that I truly forgave her for how I felt that she did me, because it doesn't bother me to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to talk about it because it shows how we were able to overcome just what the attack of the enemy. And it showed me what true forgiveness is, because if I didn't truly forgive her, we would not be back having these conversations we have.
Hard when we doing this video.
Right. We would not be doing that because we would feel some type of way. Yeah. So I think for me, that's something as far as how I experience forgiveness in a friendship. And it makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not like looking at you sideways when you're over there like, I'm like, no, I'm like, that's my sister. Yeah. We good. And so what do you think about in that situation with us? Do you think you had to forgive?
I think I had to forgive, and it wasn't because, like Crystal said, it's not that, like, sometimes when we have to forgive people, it's not necessarily, sometimes it's because they did us wrong. And then, maybe like 25% of the time, it's like we think that they did us wrong. But the thing is, we're just two different people and two different personalities and just two different minds of thinking or whatever that gets you to where it's like you can't believe. So it's like, I guess, having an expectation of a friendship that it's like that didn't really align with the way that it went. So in that situation for me and you, Crystal, it was like, I guess I just had to forgive the fact that, like, even though you were telling me stuff that I probably needed to hear but didn't want to hear, being able to forgive you for, and it's, even if it's the slightest thing, it's being able to forgive you, forgive you in the sense of the way that it was presented to me or the way that I thought it was presented to me. And just being able to forgive myself, like, Crystal, it's okay for you to, feel this way or whatever, but you still need to be able to understand what she's telling you, or the conversations that are being made or whatever. So just being able to understand the other person's point of view and to be able to see, what I'm saying? Because if you won't be able to see your point of view as well as theirs, you won't be able to forgive them.
Exactly. Yeah. And in our situation, we had the luxury of being able to talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't where we were like not on talking terms. We're like, well, what's going on? Or we never was able to hear, well, what really happened.
Right.
Because if we would have just stopped at that point, because it took several additional conversations to really get to the root of the problem. And we just realized that, hey, this is, I wasn't meaning it in a bad way, but I can see where you're coming from and how you might, or this is how I talk, but maybe I should talk like that, because if somebody else is perceiving it this way, like, we were able to have those conversations versus she tripping, like, ain't nobody else complaining, so I felt like
I ain't changed nothing.
Exactly, I ain't changing nothing. God made me like this. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like that was really good, because I feel like forgiveness was our closure. Yeah. And I feel like we were truly able to move on. And it really didn't happen overnight.
Yeah. It's a process.
It was a process, because you can say you forgive someone and you're okay, but in your heart if and so I feel like over time, constantly like, I forgive her, I'm good. And then continuing to pray, it'll become reality.
Prayer. I feel like prayer is the big indicator.
Yeah.
Prayer is the big indicator, because you're acknowledging that something that's really not in your control is in the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's in your control, and you acknowledge the fact that it's like, oh,
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So I'm going to end this with just a few words, and we'll probably do a part 2, because I feel like there's some more stuff to talk about and process. But, sometimes you have to make things public to show that you are sincere in your forgiveness, that you're not holding on or, harping or bitter about a person because you feel they didn't give you the apology you deserve. Sometimes you have to make things public, because you can easily say it in private, or I can say, oh yeah, I forgive him, but sometimes the process of forgiveness takes more than just in private saying I forgive the person, or talking to your friend saying I forgive the person. And so for me, I just want to say to my ex or my exes or whoever that I've dated in the past, is I want to actually say that I am sorry that I put the burden of you loving me and completing me and filling the void, because I didn't know that I was missing God. I was putting expectations on you because I didn't know that only God could feel that. I didn't know that the missing piece, I didn't know it wasn't a man, it was God. And so for me, my part in it, because we can always look at the part they played, but why did I put so much pressure on you not leaving me? Why did I put so much pressure on, you talking to me and holding you to a certain standard? Why did I do that when you really didn't owe me anything? And it's because at that point, I did not have God. I did not have God. I knew a God. I did not have him. And so all the expectations I had put on people, even friends in the past, I realized that I put, you know, expectations on people that was not fair, because with what we're expecting out of people, no one will ever be able to give that to us, because it's only God. And so for that, I want to apologize to people that I felt like I put those expectations on, and you probably didn't know at the time how, to explain that it was too much pressure for you. And I probably did not give you a safe space to tell me that, because let's be honest, if you would have told me that, that probably would have led to other issues and problems. So I just wanted to apologize that I put the expectations of God on you. And I asked for forgiveness in that area. And so, Miss Christelle, look into the camera and speak to that person that you're in the process of forgiving.
Okay. I want to say to Shamari, I wasn't going to say your name, but I just feel led to say that. But I want to say to Shamari that I forgive you. I forgive you for throwing my negative emotions on you. I forgive you for leaving me the time and the way that you did. I understand and I know that we were both young. I understand that we were not saved, and I understand that we grew up totally different. And I understand that, we were not able to fill each other's cups and to be able to love each other the correct way because we didn't know God for ourselves. And so I forgive you for hurting me. I forgive you for I forgive you for not being able to point me in the direction that I feel like a man should point a female in or a woman in. And I also want to say I am sorry. I want to say I'm sorry because yes, although I was hurt, yes, although I felt like it still wasn't right, and yes, although I had my own emotions that I was going through. I am sorry because I know that I was not perfect. I know that I wanted us to be something that probably wasn't in the plans for us, and that is okay. But I want you to understand and to know that I pray for you. And I actually genuinely hope that you're doing good. And I pray that you will come in close contact with the Lord. And I also just want to say, I just can't wait to see how God will use you and your situations in the future. And so I forgive yourself. I forgive you, and I forgive myself for being placed in those situations that we probably shouldn't have been in. And so that is the forgiveness.
Yeah, so we did it. And so that is all we have today. We just wanted to share our stories, because it's easier said than done. And, it's easy to tell somebody to forgive, forgive, forgive. But if you haven't done it yourself, how can you tell me and explain to me what that looks like?
Yeah.
And so I hope that you're able to take this to God and just talk to him and ask him to search your heart and let you know areas where you have unforgiveness, and who he needs to help you forgive. And I'm not saying that you'll wake up the next day, feeling better or actually meaning the apology to the person, or forgiving the person. But if you continue to seek God, continue to pray, your heart will change. It will soften. So we thank you all for tuning in. We will be back again. This is surviving cuffing season. And this episode is forgiveness leads to closure. So we thank you all. Enjoy your night.
Yes.